The sun sank low over Worth Avenue, bathing Palm Beach, Florida, in a warm, golden light. Palm trees lined the street, their fronds swaying lazily as luxury cars purred past, ferrying the elite to one of America's ritziest shopping strips. Maggie Reynolds' boutique stood like a crown jewel among them, its glass doors spotless, chandeliers casting a soft glow over polished travertine floors. Racks of designer gowns shimmered in the corners, while glass cases cradled handbags worth more than a year's rent. This wasn't just a store. It was a temple of prestige, and Maggie guarded it with fierce pride. At 48, Maggie exuded authority. Her teal dress hugged her curves, blonde hair swept into a tight chignon, and gold-rimmed glasses perched on her nose like a badge of command. Image is everything, she'd bark at her staff, her voice cutting through the air. This is Worth Avenue, not some flea market. We don't cater to gawkers. Her team, Lila Carter, a soft-spoken salesgirl, and Tom Grayson, the jittery new hire, knew better than to cross her. Maggie's rules were absolute. No smudges, no slouching, and no outsiders who didn't belong. That afternoon, the boutique buzzed quietly. Soft jazz drifted through the air, blending with the rustle of tissue paper as Lila wrapped a $3,000 clutch for a client. Tom hovered near a display case, polishing it with quick, nervous swipes, his eyes flicking to Maggie. She stood by the entrance, arms crossed, scanning the street like a sentinel. Then the door chimed. A woman stepped in, tall, poised, her heels clicking sharply against the stone. She wore a flowing white coat, a wide-brimmed hat shadowing her face, and oversized sunglasses that swallowed her features. Her fingers grazed a rack of cashmere shawls, lingering with a subtle grace. Maggie's eyes narrowed. No Birkin bag, no diamond studs, something was off. "Tourist," she muttered, her lips tightening into a thin line. She strode forward, heels snapping with purpose. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said, her tone polished but icy. "We're expecting a private appointment soon. I'll need you to leave unless you've booked with us." The woman tilted her head, sunglasses slipping just enough to reveal piercing blue eyes that locked onto Maggie's. "I won't be long," she replied, her voice smooth, almost hypnotic with a faint accent. "I just want to look." Maggie's smile didn't budge, but her gaze turned steely. "I'm sorry, but this isn't a public showroom," she said, stepping closer. "We're by appointment only. My assistant can schedule you another day." The air thickened, the jazz fading to a distant hum. The woman paused, her hand still hovering over a $5,000 handbag. Then, slowly, she slid her sunglasses back up. "I see," she said, her tone soft but final. Without another word, she turned, her coat swaying as she glided toward the door. The chime rang again, sharp, decisive, as she stepped out. Maggie exhaled, a smirk tugging at her lips. "Another wannabe," she said, turning to Lila, who'd watched with wide eyes. "They think they can waltz in here like it's a mall." Lila fidgeted with the tissue paper. "She seemed different, Maggie. Did you see her eyes?" Maggie waved her off. "Tourists always act special. Probably wants a selfie for Instagram." She shot a look at Tom, who'd frozen mid-polish. "What are you staring at?" "Back to work." Tom flinched, grabbing his cloth as Maggie strode to the counter, smug in her victory. Outside, the woman paused on the sidewalk, her shadow stretching long against the sunlit pavement. A black SUV idled nearby, its tinted windows gleaming. She slipped off her hat, revealing a cascade of dark hair, and glanced back at the boutique, her expression unreadable. A man in a suit stepped out of the vehicle, murmuring into an earpiece. She nodded once, climbed in, and the SUV pulled away, leaving only silence in its wake. Inside, Maggie adjusted her glasses, oblivious to the storm she'd just ignited. Lila whispered to Tom, "I swear I've seen her before." He shrugged, but his gut twisted. Something big was coming, and Maggie had no idea. The boutique settled back into its polished rhythm after the mysterious woman left. The sun dipped lower over Worth Avenue, casting long shadows through the glass doors as the Palm Beach elite trickled in. Women in tailored sundresses, their wrists dripping with gold, their voices a soft hum of privilege. Maggie Reynolds leaned against the counter, her teal dress still pristine, her gold-rimmed glasses catching the chandelier's glow. She flicked a speck of dust off her sleeve, satisfied. "See," she said to Lila Carter, who was folding a stack of silk scarves. "You can't let just anyone in here. Standards matter." Lila nodded, but her hazel eyes darted to the door. "I don't know, Maggie," she said, her voice low. She didn't seem like a tourist. There was something about her. Maggie snorted, adjusting a display of $8,000 earrings. "You're too soft, Lila." She was probably some snowbird with a rented Bentley, trying to feel important. Tom Grayson, wiping down a glass case nearby, piped up hesitantly. "I thought she looked familiar. Like, maybe from TV." Maggie spun on him, her heels clicking sharply. "Don't be ridiculous, Tom. What, you think Oprah strolls in here unannounced? Focus on your job." Tom shrank back, mumbling, just saying, but the seed was planted. Lila kept stealing glances at the street, her fingers fumbling with the scarves. The boutique hummed along, clients browsing, jazz playing, until Vivian Holt swept in, her Hermes bag swinging like a trophy. At 60, Vivian was a Worth Avenue fixture, her platinum hair teased high, her lips painted coral. "Maggie, darling," she called, her voice dripping with delight. "You'll never guess who I saw at Mar-a-Lago last season. That woman you just shoot out? I'd swear it was her." Maggie's smirk faltered, but she recovered fast. "Vivian, you say that about every brunette in a hat," she replied, forcing a laugh. "She wasn't booked. Rules are rules." Vivian raised a manicured brow, leaning closer. "Oh, honey, I'm telling you, those cheekbones, that walk. I'd bet my new Rolex it was Melania Trump." The name hit like a thunderclap. Lila froze, a scarf slipping from her hands. Tom's jaw dropped, his cloth dangling midair. Maggie's glasses slid down her nose. "That's absurd," she snapped, her voice tighter than usual. "Melania Trump wouldn't shop here incognito." Vivian shrugged, smirking. "Suit yourself. But if it was her, you just made the faux pas of the year." She sauntered off to browse, leaving a trail of perfume and doubt. Maggie turned away, busying herself with a stack of receipts, but her hands trembled slightly. "Nonsense," she muttered. "She's just stirring the pot." But the pot was already boiling. By dusk, as Maggie locked up, Tom pulled out his phone, scrolling furiously. "Lila, look," he whispered, holding up a photo of Melania from a recent gala. Same height, same poise, those eyes. Lila gasped. "Oh my God, it's her." Tom grinned, reckless now. "We should tell Maggie." Lila shook her head. "She'll flip. You saw how she shut you down." But the rumor wouldn't stay quiet. That night, a local Instagram account, Palm Beach Insider, posted, "Drama on Worth Avenue. A boutique manager just kicked out a VIP. Guess who?" Comments exploded. "Melania? No way. Which store?" Maggie, at home sipping a martini, scrolled her phone and froze. Her boutique wasn't named, yet, but the knot in her stomach tightened. "Overblown gossip," she hissed, tossing the phone aside. "It'll blow over." Back at the store, Lila and Tom huddled by the counter after closing. "If it's really her," Lila said, "what happens next?" Tom's eyes gleamed. "She comes back, and Maggie's toast." Outside, the palm trees swayed in the humid breeze, oblivious to the storm brewing. Maggie had dismissed the queen, and the crown was about to fall. The next day would prove it. 2 days later, Worth Avenue shimmered under a flawless Florida sky, the boutique pulsing with its Friday peak. Sunlight streamed through the glass doors, warming the travertine floors as Palm Beach's elite drifted in, women in breezy linen sundresses, their wrists heavy with gold bangles, their laughter a soft ripple of privilege. Maggie Reynolds stood behind the counter, her teal dress swapped for a crisp white blazer, her gold-rimmed glasses glinting with every sharp turn of her head. She'd buried the Instagram rumors deep, convincing herself it was just Vivian Holt's flair for drama. "People love a juicy tale," she'd muttered that morning, smoothing her chignon in the mirror. "It's nothing. It'll fade." Lila Carter darted between clients, her voice a gentle hum as she offered a $12,000 necklace to a woman draped in pearls and Chanel. Tom Grayson lingered near the back, his usual jitters replaced by a cocky grin. He'd called it from the start, and now he waited for the payoff. The air thrummed with energy, the jazz playlist swallowed by the rustle of shopping bags and hushed gossip. Then, the doors flew open with a commanding thud, silencing the room like a gunshot. Melania Trump stepped inside, her presence a thunderbolt ripping through the calm. She wore a sleek beige midi dress that clung to her frame, a strand of pearls at her throat glowing under the chandeliers. No hat, no sunglasses, just those piercing blue eyes, now bare and blazing, slicing through the boutique. A tight entourage trailed her like a royal guard. 2 men in black suits, earpieces winking in the light, a woman clutching a sleek leather briefcase, and another snapping photos from the doorway, camera flashes bursting outside like fireworks. The boutique stalled, clients froze mid-sentence. Lila dropped a velvet tray with a muffled clatter. Tom's grin vanished into wide-eyed shock. Maggie's heart slammed against her ribs, her blazer suddenly too tight, her breath shallow. She met Melania's gaze, and time stretched thin. Those eyes, the ones she dismissed so casually, now pinned her with quiet, unrelenting power. Every nerve in her body screamed. She'd misjudged, and badly. "Good afternoon," Melania said, her voice smooth but laced with iron. "I like to look around. Is that allowed now?" The question landed like a slap, soft yet stinging, its weight sinking into Maggie's core. The room held its breath. Clients whispered behind jeweled fingers. Vivian Holt, lounging by a handbag display, let out a gleeful, "Oh, this is divine." Maggie's throat closed, her mind scrambling for footing. "Of course, ma'am," she choked out, her voice splintering like glass. "Welcome. Please, take your time." She stepped aside, her heels unsteady as Melania glided past, her scent a fleeting whisper of jasmine that lingered like a taunt. Melania moved with purpose, her team in lockstep behind her. She paused at a rack of silk gowns, fingers tracing the fabric with deliberate grace, then stopped at a glass case. A crocodile skin handbag, $15,000, the boutique's crown jewel, drew her focus. She turned to Lila, still clutching the fallen tray like a lifeline. "What do you think of this?" Melania asked, her tone deceptively calm. Lila blinked, stammering, "It's stunning, ma'am. One of our finest pieces." Melania nodded, then fixed her eyes on Maggie, who hovered nearby, her face flushed and sweating. "And you?" she pressed, her gaze a blade cutting through the air. "Is it worth my time?" Maggie's mouth went dry, her glasses fogging with nervous heat. "Absolutely," she said, forcing a brittle smile that felt like a lie. "It's exquisite, perfect for someone like you." The words rang hollow, a flimsy shield against the moment. Melania's lips twitched, not a smile, but a knowing curve that chilled Maggie's spine. "Good," she said. "I'll take it." She slid a black credit card across the counter to Lila, who fumbled it with shaky hands, nearly dropping it again. The machine beeped, a small sound that roared in the silence. Vivian clapped softly, whispering to a friend, "This is better than Bravo." The photographer outside clicked furiously, flashes painting the walls in stark white bursts. Melania faced Maggie again, her expression serene yet piercing. "You know," she said, her voice dropping low, "it's a shame when people judge too quickly. Don't you think?" Maggie's cheeks flamed, her knees trembling beneath her. She opened her mouth, but words failed, her authority, her fortress, shattering under that steady, unrelenting stare. Melania didn't wait for a reply. She nodded to her entourage, who closed ranks as the photographer kept shooting, the flashes relentless. The boutique was a stage now, and Maggie was a prop, stripped bare. Lila handed over the wrapped bag, her eyes wide with awe. Tom muttered, "Told you so," from the sidelines, his voice barely audible. Vivian purred, "Maggie, darling, you've outdone yourself this time." The air crackled with tension as Melania moved to the door, graceful, untouchable, a queen reclaiming her court. She paused, throwing Maggie one last look, a silent vow etched in those blue eyes. This wasn't the end. Then she vanished, the SUV's engine growling to life outside, tires crunching against the pavement as it sped away. The boutique stood stunned, the silence thick and suffocating. Maggie gripped the counter, her knuckles white, her world spinning out of control. The storm had struck, and the fallout was just beginning. Melania's departure left the boutique in a hush, the air thick with the echo of her presence. The glass doors swung shut, but the flashes from the photographer outside lingered, casting jagged shadows across the travertine floors. Maggie Reynolds stood rooted behind the counter, her white blazer crumpled at the elbows, her gold-rimmed glasses fogged with sweat. Her hands gripped the edge, nails digging into the wood as the weight of Melania's words. "It's a shame when people judge too quickly," sank deeper, a quiet blade twisting in her gut. The room slowly stirred back to life, but Maggie felt like a statue, hollowed out. Lila Carter clutched the tissue-wrapped handbag, her hazel eyes wide as she stared at the black credit card still warm in her hand. She meant it, didn't she? She whispered to Tom Grayson, who leaned against the display case, his cocky grin replaced by a dazed nod. "Yeah," he said, voice low. That was a mic drop. Vivian Holt, ever the queen of chaos, sauntered over, her coral lips pursed in delight. "Maggie, darling," she cooed, twirling a strand of platinum hair. "You just given Palm Beach its juiciest story since the divorce season." "Bravo." Maggie's jaw tightened, but she couldn't muster a reply. Her throat was sandpaper. Melania's voice broke the spell. "One more thing," she'd said before leaving, turning to Maggie with that serene, cutting gaze. "This is for your staff. They've been impeccable." She'd handed over a slim envelope, her fingers brushing Maggie's trembling ones. Now Lila held it, her curiosity burning. "Should we open it?" she asked, glancing at Tom. He shrugged, but his eyes gleamed. "Go for it." Lila tore the seal, pulling out a check, $10,000, made out to staff of Worth Avenue Boutique. She gasped, nearly dropping it. "Oh my God, this is for us." Maggie snapped out of her trance, snatching the check from Lila's hand. "Let me see that." She barked, her voice hoarse. Her eyes scanned the numbers, the elegant signature, Melania Trump, and her stomach lurched. $10,000. A fortune for her team, a slap to her pride. "She's mocking me," Maggie muttered, her fingers crumpling the edges. Tom frowned. "Or she's rewarding us. You know, for not being you." Lila shot him a warning look, but the damage was done. Maggie's face flushed crimson, her glasses sliding down her nose. "Watch it, Grayson," she hissed, shoving the check back at Lila. "Put it away." But the boutique wouldn't let it rest. Clients lingered, their whispers growing louder. "Did you see her face?" one woman said, clutching a $5,000 scarf. So poised, she didn't even flinch. Another nodded, sipping a latte she'd smuggled in. "That manager's toast. You don't cross someone like that." Vivian, now holding court by the jewelry case, chimed in. "I told her it was Melania." She didn't listen. Classic Maggie. The words stung, each one a pebble in an avalanche burying her reputation. By afternoon, the story hit the local press. A Palm Beach Post headline blared. "Worth Avenue Boutique snubs VIP." Was it Melania Trump? No names yet, but the photo of Melania leaving, bag in hand, was damning enough. Maggie retreated to her office, slamming the door. She sank in her chair, the check now on her desk, staring back like an accusation. Her phone buzzed, text from friends, a missed call from the boutique's owner. She ignored them, scrolling Instagram instead. Palm Beach Insider had doubled down. Manager's meltdown caught on camera. "Who's sweating now?" Comments piled up. "Classless move. Bet she's fired by Monday." And Maggie's chest tightened. She tossed the phone, burying her face in her hands. "It'll blow over," she whispered, but the lie tasted bitter. Her fortress of prestige was cracking, and she'd built the fault line herself. Lila knocked softly, peeking in. "Maggie? You okay?" Maggie straightened, forcing a nod. "Fine. Just fine." Lila hesitated, then stepped closer. "She wasn't mad, you know. Melania. It felt like she wanted you to think, not just squirm. Maggie's eyes narrowed, but Lila's words lingered, a faint lifeline in the chaos. She'd judged too fast, assumed too much, and now her world teetered. The check sat heavy, a gift she didn't deserve, a lesson she couldn't dodge. Outside, Worth Avenue hummed on, oblivious. But inside, Maggie faced a reckoning, and it wasn't over yet. The next morning, Worth Avenue shimmered under a gentle dawn, the palm trees still as the boutique's glass doors caught the first rays of sun. Maggie Reynolds arrived early, her white blazer traded for a soft cream blouse. Less armor, more humility. Her gold-rimmed glasses dangled from her neck, her face free of its usual mask. She unlocked the store, the chime ringing in the quiet, and stood there, inhaling the calm. Yesterday's chaos, Melania's return, the check, the headlines had stripped her bare, but a quiet strength flickered within. She gathered Lila Carter and Tom Grayson before opening, their wary eyes tracking her as they perched on velvet stools. Maggie faced them, hands clasped tight. "I owe you an apology," she said, her voice steady yet tender. "I messed up big. I judged someone huge without a second thought, and it hit us all. That's on me." Lila blinked, stunned. Tom shifted, silent. Maggie held up the $10,000 check. "This is yours. Melania gave it for you, not me. Split it fair." Lila took it, fingers shaking. "Maggie, thank you," she said, a shy smile blooming. Tom nodded, softer now. "You didn't have to." Maggie shook her head. "I did. I've run this place like a tyrant, thinking I had it all figured out. I didn't." She met their gazes. "From now on, respect comes first, VIP or not. That's our rule." The boutique opened, and Vivian Holt swept in, Hermes' bag swinging. "Maggie, you survived," she teased, then paused. "It feels kinder here today." Maggie smiled, a real one, watching clients browse as a host, not a gatekeeper. Melania's lesson had stung, but it remade her. Worth Avenue rolled on, headlines fading, yet Maggie carried the change forward, one human step at a time. "What do you think?" she'd ask us now. "Could you forgive a mistake like hers?" Drop a comment below and subscribe for more stories of lessons learned.